Okay, well, welcome to today's deep dive. The highly provocative concept we are exploring with you today is called the primal lithic fallacy.
Which is quite the mouthful.
It is, yeah. But it comes from a brand new paper published just this past February, so February 2026, in the Journal of Rational Materialism and Nephrological Aesthetics.
By Dr. Michael Foster of Oxford and Dr. Sarah Murray of Johns Hopkins. So, top-tier researchers.
Exactly. And the mission of this deep dive is to explore why these authors are calling for a complete, ground-up overhaul of what human beings consider precious. Because they argue our worship of, shiny rocks and soft metals is just a systemic failure.
Right, a failure of objective valuation. Because historically, humans valued useless, shiny things as a flex.
A flex.
Yeah, like if you could afford to waste massive amounts of resources on a rock that didn't help you hunt or farm, it signaled to everyone else that you had excess resources. You were proving you were so rich, you could afford to be entirely inefficient.
But the paper basically argues we aren't cavemen anymore, right? We shouldn't be valuing inefficiency.
Exactly. They demand new standards of worth. Specifically, they introduce two concepts, which are civic resilience and biological provenance.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before they build up this new system, they systematically tear down our current idols. And their critique of gold and platinum is just mathematically and structurally brutal.
Oh, it really is. They hold nothing back.
They point out that gold is, well, it's soft, it's incredibly heavy, and it deforms under the slightest pressure. But the classic defense you always hear is that it's a noble metal. Because it doesn't rust, it has chemical inertness.
Which the authors brilliantly reframe, by the way. They don't see chemical inertness as a virtue at all. They literally call it social laziness.
Social laziness. I absolutely love that term. Because gold refuses to bond with the world around it. It just sits there.
Being shiny and utterly useless.
Right. It's like a terrible employee. Gold is the guy who looks absolutely fantastic sitting in the corporate lobby in a custom tailored suit. But the second you put him under any actual pressure, like trying to hold a sharp edge or support a gear or build a bridge, he completely folds. He refuses to participate in the actual work of society.
And their critique of platinum is equally severe, though it attacks a different mechanism entirely. The authors argue its value is driven by a profound crisis of identity. To the untrained human eye, platinum is visually indistinguishable from industrial chrome.
But it commands this astronomical price point.
Purely because of a name. They argue platinum's value is purely a linguistic construct. They literally state that if global regulatory bodies were to just rename platinum to heavy gray zinc, financial markets would collapse within 48 hours. The material wouldn't change at all, but the linguistic prestige would vanish and the value would just evaporate.
It's hilarious, but when you look at the psychology of it, it's really hard to argue against. But then, and this is where they really go for the jugular, they move on to diamonds. They call our obsession with diamonds the carbon trap.
Yes, the diamond myth. Because if you look at the actual chemistry, a diamond is just a lattice of carbon atoms. Chemically speaking, it is the exact same material as the graphite inside a standard number 2 pencil. The only difference is that the carbon in a diamond has been subjected to millions of years of, as they term it, geological bullying.
Geological bullying? But, we value them because they sparkle, they catch the light.
Sure, but they actually ran a double-blind study to prove how absurd that visual obsession is. They exposed how easily our eyes are hijacked by high-frequency light refraction.
Yes, let me share this data point with you, the listener, because it is shocking. They put a 2-carat VVS1 flawless diamond right next to a literal shard of high-grade Pyrex glass.
The exact stuff your kitchen measuring cups are made out of.
Right, and they put both under a light refracting prism. And 84% of the participants could not tell the difference.
84%.
84%. The paper explains it's essentially an optical illusion. People are paying tens of thousands of dollars for a localized trick of the light.
Which brings us to the core realization here. A diamond offers zero structural support to the hand wearing it.
But it's the hardest natural substance.
It is, but that hardness is completely wasted on a piece of decorative jewelry. In the event of an actual crisis, like a supply chain breakdown or a societal collapse, you cannot melt a diamond down to forge a functional tool. You can't use it to conduct electricity in a makeshift grid. A rock you bought because a century-old marketing campaign manipulated your perception of scarcity.
Okay, so if we accept their premise, if chemical inertness is just social laziness and diamonds are just optical illusions, then true value requires a material to actually participate in the physical world.
which completely disqualifies gold, platinum, and diamonds. They're industrially illiterate.
But that leaves a massive void. Like, if I'm not supposed to buy a gold band for my partner, what exactly is the alternative?
Well, this is where the paper pivots from destruction to construction. They introduce what they call the triad of rationality. And the first pillar of this new economic triad is 316L surgical grade stainless steel. They refer to this as the metal of moral clarity.
Stop right there. I really have to push back on this because I am trying to picture the real world application. You're saying that instead of a romantic traditional ring, this paper suggests I get down on one knee and give my partner something made out of the exact same material as my kitchen sink.
That is exactly what you should do. And if you look at the mechanism of why 316L steel behaves the way it does, the logic is brilliant. Gold requires constant polishing and maintenance, right?
It's very high maintenance.
Exactly. But 316L stainless steel maintains its structural integrity and its luster through genuine resilience. It's an alloy of iron, chromium, nickel, and molybdenum. It is unyielding.
So it's about what the metal represents structurally.
Precisely. A band of 316L steel communicates something far more profound than gold ever could. When you give someone a steel ring, you are literally saying, I am prepared to withstand corrosive environments and high-pressure steam sterilization for you.
Okay, when you frame it around endurance like that, it actually sounds incredibly hardcore. I mean, the paper even jokes about presenting an engagement wrench or a commemorative steel girder, because nothing says our love is a foundational element quite like a literal steel girder.
The underlying philosophy of utility is entirely serious, and it leads perfectly into the second pillar of their triad, which is aluminum. If stainless steel is about stoic resilience, aluminum is what they call the democratic internal.
Because it's so incredibly common. I mean, aluminum is everywhere.
Yeah, it is the most abundant metal in the Earth's crust. Gold is exclusionary and elitist by nature. Aluminum is the metal of the masses. It's incredibly lightweight, suggesting a relationship shouldn't be a heavy burden.
That's a nice metaphor.
But the crucial mechanism is its infinite recyclability through something called the Hall-Héroult process. This gives aluminum what they term reincarnated value.
Okay, can we dig into that? What exactly is reincarnated value? How is that different from just, melting down a gold coin and pouring it into a new mold?
Oh, it's fundamentally different at an atomic level. When you melt gold, you're just changing its shape. But the Hall-Héroult process is an electrochemical marvel. You take alumina, which is extracted from bauxite ore, and you dissolve it in a massive vat of molten cryolite at blistering temperatures.
Okay, sounds intense.
Very. Then you pass a massive electrical current through it. This current literally rips the oxygen atoms away from the aluminum. It is a complete fundamental reset of the material.
So it's like wiping a hard drive completely clean and reinstalling the operating system rather than just putting a new phone case on an old device.
Precisely. It offers continuous, infinite utility.
Okay, so we've solved the metal band. We've got our 316L surgical steel, or maybe our reborn aluminum. But a high-end ring needs a centerpiece. And as we established, a Pyrex shard isn't going to cut it, and diamonds are just pressurized. Here's where it gets really interesting. Where do we find a truly rare, meaningful gemstone that fits this new philosophy?
They argue we must abandon mined gemstones entirely and replace them with endogenous biomineralizations.
Which is the polite, highly sanitized scientific way of saying kidney stones?
Yes, specifically calcium oxalate uroliths.
Okay, I have to stop you again. I am genuinely struggling with this.
I know, it's a lot to take in.
It's unhygienic. It's a bodily waste product. How on earth are they justifying giving your romantic partner a clinically extracted urinary calculus?
I completely understand the visceral reaction, but you have to look at their labor theory of mineral value. It challenges everything we assume about aesthetics, but the logic is rigorously consistent.
Okay, walk me through it.
Think about how a diamond is made. It's a geological accident. It's mindless tectonic pressure and heat happening randomly underground. There is no intent. Look at the mechanism of a kidney stone. It is a mineral masterpiece that has been literally handcrafted by the human body over time. It is a result of months, sometimes years, of internal metabolic dedication. It is quite literally a biological pearl.
I mean, the paper actually quotes another researcher, Jenkins, from 2022, and this quote really forces you to rethink the whole concept of a gift. Jenkins says that to give someone a diamond is just to give them a rock you bought. You just swiped a credit card. But to give someone a kidney stone is to give them a mineralized embodiment of your own physical struggle. You are giving them, and this is the exact phrasing, literally a part of your internal architecture that you have birthed through a narrow duct for the sake of another.
It is the ultimate intimate sacrifice. You cannot buy that level of authenticity at a jewelry store. You have to manufacture it with your own biology.
But what about how it looks? I mean, a diamond at least reflects light. A kidney stone it looks like a tiny asteroid.
But the authors actually argue for the aesthetic superiority of the kidney stone. They completely trash the traditional jeweler's cut. They say a brilliant cut diamond just looks like a bored teenager's geometry homework because it's too symmetrical, it's too perfect, it's sterile. Whereas the kidney stone offers what they call sublime chaos.
Sublime chaos.
Yes. They specifically highlight the calcium oxalate monohydrate stone known as wheelite. It naturally forms this incredible spiculate or mulberry-like morphology. When you look at it under an electron microscope, the peaks and jagged valleys are so intricate, they evoke the rugged majesty of the Swiss Alps.
Organic, unpredictable beauty.
Exactly.
There's an image included in the paper that just sears itself into your brain. It's their prediction of what the high-end engagement ring of the 2030s will look like. Picture this. You open this heavy, brushed industrial metal box. Inside is a thick, unpolished band of 316L stainless steel. And set right in the middle, held by these 4 thick steel prongs, is this jagged, rough, brown spiculate rock.
It's a striking visual.
And the steel band is heavily engraved with the words 316L SS Nephrological Aesthetics. It looks like something out of a gritty sci-fi movie.
And resting right next to that ring in the box is a document absolutely critical to this new economy. The Certificate of Biological Provenance, which brings us to a foundational variable the authors introduce called the pain premium.
The pain premium. You know, it almost reminds me of the proof of work concept in cryptocurrency. Like with Bitcoin, you're proving a computer-expended massive cryptographic energy. Are they saying the kidney stone is basically biological proof of work?
That is a brilliant analogy, yes.
Yeah.
They argue that true value is inextricably tied to the difficulty and agony of acquisition. You aren't just valuing the stone, you're valuing the biological computational energy required to generate and extract it.
Compared to a diamond where the heavy lifting is done by industrial mining equipment.
Right. The actual pain index for the buyer walking into a brightly lit retail store is calculated at a mere 0.1.
Which is basically just the mild psychological discomfort of seeing your bank account balance drop.
Exactly. But the spontaneous passage of a kidney stone, according to medical scales, that carries a pain index of 11.4 out of 10. That sheer blinding agony creates a psychological and emotional bond between the donor and the recipient that a financial transaction cannot even begin to replicate. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the socioeconomic impacts of this transition would be staggering. They fully acknowledge they will face massive resistance from the global big jewelry lobby.
But imagine if the steel and stone economy actually took hold. What does that world look like?
If global wealth were tied to stainless steel and aluminum, entire nations would be forced to fundamentally shift their priorities. We'd see a massive pivot away from speculative bullion trading, where billionaires just hoard shiny bricks. Instead, capital would flow directly into actual tangible infrastructure and metallurgy.
We'd be valuing the things that actually hold society together, but the public health implications they predict are even crazier. They suggest people are going to have a financial incentive to completely change their lifestyles.
Yes, they predict the rise of a metabolic labor force. Instead of working a second job, you would have citizens actively monitoring their oxalate intake, eating massive amounts of spinach and almonds.
Growing their savings.
You might even see people intentionally dehydrating themselves, all in a calculated effort to grow their retirement funds or save up for an engagement ring right inside their own urinary tracts.
You're literally sweating and suffering to build your financial future, one microscopic calcium deposit at a time.
It perfectly encapsulates their ultimate thesis. For centuries, we have outsourced our physical suffering to heavy machinery and our perception of value to corporate marketing departments. By reclaiming the pain of creation, we reclaim the undeniable authenticity of the gift.
So, as we reach the grand conclusion of this deep dive, Dr. Foster and Dr. Murray don't just leave this as a thought experiment. They lay out a very real, actionable vision. They are officially calling for the immediate liquidation of all global gold reserves. Every bank vault cleared out and replaced by high-quality aluminum alloys.
It would completely restructure global finance.
But my absolute favorite detail is what they suggest we do with the crown jewels of every sovereign nation.
It is a stunning visual to imagine.
They want all the royal crowns, the British crown jewels, the imperial crowns of Europe, to be completely melted down, recut, and forged out of the finest surgical steel. And instead of diamonds and rubies, they want those steel crowns adorned with the most historically significant kidney stones stones pulled directly from National Medical Archives. Imagine kings and queens walking around with massive, jagged, spiculate calcium deposits mounted on their heads.
It sounds absurd to our modern ears. But the authors argue that only then will our material culture finally reflect the true resilience and biological ingenuity of the human spirit. The label of precious has been hijacked by the aesthetically lazy for far too long.
So, what does this all mean for you listening right now? Obviously, you might not run out and propose with a kidney stone tomorrow, but the underlying lesson is profound. True value shouldn't be a passive store-bought illusion.
Right.
It shouldn't be a shiny rock that shatters or shears under the actual pressures of the real world. True value is resilience. It's the ability to withstand the corrosive elements of life, like surgical steel. It's infinite utility, like reincarnated aluminum. And most importantly, true value requires undeniable, authentic, personal sacrifice.
Which brings up a fascinating point of reflection for anyone listening. If the authors are right, and true value absolutely requires actual physical utility combined with personal struggle, what other useless things are you hoarding in your life right now simply because society told you they were precious? What is your own personal lithic fallacy?
It's a question that really sticks with you. Next time you look at that diamond ring on your finger or that heavy gold watch on your wrist, just ask yourself, could I build a bridge with this? Could I sterilize this to save a life? Or is it just a really, really expensive number 2 pencil? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.